Good Saturday morning to you all. Hope you're having a fantastic start to your weekend. Welcome into another draft edition of the Barking Brown Show. I'm Jacob. That's Bill Sparks. We're brought to you as always by our friends over at SeatGeek. So if you're looking to go to a live event, Cavs season tipping off for some, want to go see the Browns or some college football, whatever you want to do, go over to SeatGeek. Use our promo code Barking Browns, all one word, to get $20 off that first purchase. Make sure if you're checking us out on the YouTube, you hit that subscribe button, gives us a thumbs up. It helps us out a ton. Make sure you check out the TikTok over the Barking Browns on TikTok. We're going to start, we do daily content over there. Might even be live stream. We won't be showing a game tonight, but there's a chance I might hop on here and chit chat with some people while we're doing that over on the TikTok. So you want to check that shit out. How you doing, Bill?
Man, Jacob, I am doing well. Watched both big games last night, Louisville, Miami, and North Carolina, Cal. Listen, I have an appreciation for the Hurricanes because of how well they dominate the trenches, and we're going to talk about their trenches today when we talk offensive tackles. But last night was a stark contrast from what I saw from the Hurricanes, and I think it's why Louisville ended up pulling the upset because they just didn't look right. And I know your guy Carson Beck, 4 interceptions, like that. That's going to get you benched.
I don't know if I want to claim him now, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to be the Carson Beck pod, but Jacob and I decided we've been going through positional rankings. If you haven't, check out the pods that we've done before on quarterbacks and wide receivers. We're now on offensive tackles, and the reason we did that, this is a Cleveland Browns focused podcast. So we wanted to make sure, is there hope for the Cleveland Browns to fix the offensive tackle and offensive line positions in 2026? That's what we're here to tell you. And Jacob, I don't know about you, but I have concerns about this offensive tackle class. You and I, we've talked about it. There's a lot in this offensive tackle class that I'm not confident stays at tackle.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list. I'll bring the list up here, the rankings here in just a moment. We'll dive into it, and I'm thinking, like, it's a very interesting class because I do think the top 4, maybe 5 are very high quality players, but 2 of them I'm pretty sure are going to have to kick inside in my rankings. And it's just not a great year because the depth is really not there at the position. I don't think I think this is going to be an interesting one where we could still see 3 or 4 of these guys potentially go in the first round because teams with that need may reach a little bit because it starts to drop off after the top 5 or so. You end up looking at a lot of projects in this class. Now I will say, you just talked about it with some of these guys needing to kick in the guard. I will say that I do believe that the interior class is pretty good, in part due to the fact that a lot of these tackles are going to need to kick inside at the next level. But this is one of those things where, and it's also right tackle heavy. This class is right tackle heavy. So this is one of those things where the Browns specifically could be looking to grab a right tackle and then also just be like, we've got to find a veteran stopgap on the left side. And that's how I think a lot of teams are going to have to navigate this. Somebody could come out of nowhere in the second half of the college football season because it happens all the time. But as of right now, it does not look like a great class. So if that's a big need for you, unfortunately, it's going to be tough outside of maybe a handful in the first round or so.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a very right tackle and interior heavy class. I mean, if you look at my top 10, which we'll put up here on the screen in a little bit, I have 1 left tackle, and I have 1 left tackle with a first round grade, and then after that, I have 3 more that all have different question marks about them, whether it's sliding inside, whether it's their twitch, whether it's their punch punch timing and play strength. Um, so you have those developmental guys, but there's question marks. And do you want a question mark at your franchise left tackle? I will say this: all 10 of my guys on my list are in my top 75 players, and part of that is because of need. We're going to see a run every year. We do. We normally see it somewhere between the back half of the first round and the middle part of the second round. So between 25 and 45, we see them just fly off the board, and you're going to see teams take reaches like you talked about because there's just a need. But in this class, if you need a franchise left tackle, you got to get him early or you're not getting one at all.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely, yeah, I think that sums it up well. So let's do it. Let's get into the top 10. I'm going to put them both here on the screen right now. So, Bill, go through your top 10, and then I'll go through mine, and then we'll just start diving in on some of the names.
Let's do it. So, starting at number 10, Caden Green from Missouri. Number 9, Emil Wagner from Notre Dame. Number 8, Gennings Dunker from Iowa. Number 7, Falili Fa'amoe from Wake Forest. Number 6, Isaiah World from Oregon. Number 5 is Austin Barber from Florida. Number 4 is Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern. Number 3, Spencer Fano from Utah. Number 2, Caleb Lomu from Utah. And number 1, Francis Cece Maui Noah from Miami.
Yeah, so for me, J.C. Davis from Illinois at number 10. I've got Alabama's Caden Proctor at number 9, Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern at 8, Caden Green from Missouri at 7. 6 is the right tackle, but Blake Miller from Clemson. Gennings Dunker. I think it's Jennings. I don't know. The tackle from Iowa, Isaiah World from Oregon at 4, Caleb Lomu from Utah at 3, Francis Moyaga from Miami at number 2, and I've got Spencer Fano, the other tackle, the right tackle from Utah at number 1. And part of it, I think Spencer Fano for me is at number 1 because I just think he's a mean son of a bitch. Like, I just think that's the playing temperament for him. So let's start. Let's just start with. I'll give it to you, and we can start with Caden Green at Missouri.
Yeah, so the big thing with Caden Green out of Missouri coming into the season, he was playing left guard for the Missouri Tigers, and then obviously some injuries forced him to kick outside, and he's handled it very, very well as a blocker. And you watch some of his games. There's been some ups, there's been some downs, right? You watched him against Louisiana Lafayette in week 3. He looked the part of a franchise left tackle, but then you watched him against Alabama just a couple weeks ago, and it was struggles left and right. You saw a guard kicking out to tackle.
Yeah.
But for me right now, he's number 10, and I firmly believe he needs to slide back inside to left guard just because of how effective he is. He's got lateral agility to survive on the edge, but he's got violent hands, plays well with leverage. My comp for him, and we talked about it a little bit before the show kicked off, Jacob, my comp for him is Joel Bitonio. And Joel Bitonio was a really good college tackle that said, I'm going to slide inside to guard, and he's been a guard the rest of his career. And I think that's the path for Caden Green is, yes, you played tackle in college, but you are a much better interior player. We are going to put you where you succeed at guard.
Yeah. I have no notes that outside of what you said. I have a little bit higher on my list at number 7, but I agree with everything you said there. It probably makes the most sense to kick him back in. But it could be a situation. Now, the Browns did it out of desperation several years ago, but like where they kicked Joel Bitonio back out to tackle just out of necessity and played relatively well. I've always been kind of a fail outside in kind of guy when it comes to these guys. So like, I would not draft him thinking you're going to get a franchise left tackle. But if you do draft him and you want to see how he handles, like if you've got like a veteran stopgap guy, I do think that Caden Green go into camp, in the offseason workouts and stuff like that, and take some reps at left tackle just to see how he reacts more, to like NFL level talent in practice
Yeah.
and things. I think you could experiment with that, but I do think he does. I agree with you. I do think he eventually needs to kick back into guard. And there's a really good chance that teams aren't even going to experiment and they're just going to go straight to put him back at guard. And I think that's fine.
Yeah. And the other big part too that isn't covered as much, he doesn't turn 21 until November. This is one of the younger players in this class.
Oh, yeah, I did not. We're so early in the process. Like, dude, I got to tell you that sometimes I just forget to do things like look up ages. Like, I just forget it. I was talking to Corey Kennan from Daft on Draft one time. This has been a couple of years ago. If you're not subscribed to Daft on Draft, you really should go check them out because they do some great work over there. But I was talking to Corey, I think it was last year, where I was talking to him about Wyatt Milam, the tackle from West Virginia. And I was like, hey, where do you sit? You know, because I'll send him texts from time to time. I'm like, where do you sit on this profile, on this prospect? And he's like, he's got 31-inch arms or 32, whatever, because Wyatt Milam had short arms. And I'm like, damn it. There's always something that I'll like forget. I'll forget to look up arm length, or I'll forget to look up age and things like that, which isn't going to completely change my evaluation, but those are attributes that will change my overall. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm moving him from tackle 5 to tackle 12 because of his arm length, but I might move him down to 7 or something, you know. Age is this time of year. I always forget to check people's age. That's my little rant. I'll start with JC Davis here. My number 10. He's on my list, not on your list. And you told me exactly why. And I completely agree. You were talking about he had a really rough game against Indiana this year. And I'm with you as to not being able to get that tape out of your head, because it was not great. So he's a left tackle over at Illinois. I really think that his technique and footwork is really refined. Like, I think when you look at JC Davis, I think in terms of like hand placement, you know, where his feet need to be, creating a solid base, and all the technical side of things, I think that he's pretty refined, pretty good, pretty ready to hit the ground running. The problem is, doesn't do a fantastic job with speed rushers. Like, speed rushers he'll give up his outside shoulder a little bit. I think he's a really smart player. Like, and I think it shows, like, his ability to identify stunts and twists and, you know, things that defensive lines are going to try to do to confuse him. I think he does a really good job of handling that. But his overall athleticism, he's a little bit limited. That's why speed rushers are going to beat him to the outside quite often. I also think he could add a little bit more size, maybe. I think he's like a little bit more size and power he could add there. Like, I think he's where I had it written down. Yeah, like, he doesn't miss time. He's been a pretty good durable player. Like, he's out there week in and week out. I love that he fit the way he finishes. Like, he plays through the whistle. Like, JC Davis is going to play through the whistle on every snap. And that's always, as a person who endured the Jed Wills era, that is something that will get you higher on my board, is if you go through that. So that's JC Davis for me. Like, a really nice technical player, but he is somewhat limited athletically.
Agreed. And I watched that IU tape, and I just can't get it out of my head because of the limited athleticism. But you look at his size, verified at 6'4", 335. I wonder, you want your centers to be more athletic than Davis is, but I wonder if not a kick inside to guard, but a kick inside to center could be in his future. I toyed with that in the summer before watching his left tackle tape this season, and I toyed with that of a center, but I just It's a struggle when I watch him because man, you watch his football, his IQ, and the way he recognizes and adjusts to stunts and blitz packages. This is a guy that does not get fooled at all. This is not the Jed Wills
Right.
gets fooled on a basic blitz package. He doesn't. He diagnoses it. But like you said, the problem is that he just struggles with elite edge rushers who have a good first step. He's a little undersized. This is his first year, his second year in the Big Ten after 2 years at New Mexico, and he's exclusively played left tackle all 4 seasons. We're talking, as of this morning, almost 2,800 snaps at left tackle in 4 seasons. So he has no real experience at sliding inside, and that for me is one of the concerns when you have a guy that you're going to potentially kick inside is they've never done it. So what learning curve are you going to give them when you take them in the top 50 and say, okay, you're a left tackle in college. You're now going to be a left guard inside. Oh, by the way, you have almost 3,000 snaps at left tackle. Yeah, here you go. Figure it out.
I guess I never really thought about it in that way. It's like, oh, no shit. It's funny though, because we do, like, when we do this as draft folks, we're just like, yeah, we're just kick them in outside. We never necessarily think of it like you did, obviously, because you just made that statement. But I never thought about it from that standpoint of like, oh, you've been doing this. You've
been doing this 4 years, yeah. Just slide inside. You'll figure it out, right? You've only got 2,800 snaps at left tackle.
That's nothing. Yeah. All right. So we'll keep moving through the list a little bit. Tell me a little bit about Emil Wagner. He's a player, the Notre Dame tackle. He's a guy I had a tough time kind of placing, and I think he probably should have put him above JC Davis and put him at 10, but I ended up not doing it. So tell me what you like about the Notre Dame tackle.
Yeah, so with Emil Wagner, this is a Jekyll and Hyde type of season for him because I mean, you watch that Miami game in week 1 and he was, and I'm going to be polite about this, he was absolutely atrocious at right tackle. Like, it was bad. Like, he got beat worse than Notre Dame's drum line. That's how bad it was. But then you saw him start to pick it up a little bit against teams like Purdue and teams like Arkansas that are lower echelon teams. And arguably NC State last week arguably was probably his best game as a pass protector. And that's his biggest thing, is that he is so effective as a pass protector because he's just got an exceptional lateral agility and he can just mirror edge rushers with ease, especially with the way he flips his hips. And and the big thing when you have a guy of his size, they often will get walked back because they're more of hip benders than they are knee benders. He doesn't have that issue. He bends from the knee very, very well. The problem with Wagner comes into play when you look at his size. He's verified at 6'6", verified at 300 pounds flat. And in the NFL, you are going to get pushed around. And then the other concern is I have these very good movement skills. If I add on 15 pounds, am I going to lose those?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's always my concern with when that is your calling card. But I'm concerned about your size. Like,
yes.
It's like I'm concerned about your size because you don't have enough, you just don't have enough poundage to play, at that level. But your calling card's your athleticism. Like we talk about this with like sometimes with wide receivers too. Like when you get like a wide receiver, you're like, well, he can't play through contact because he's sub 200 pounds. And you're like, yeah, but if I get him to 200 pounds, is he still going to be explosive? Like, what are we doing there? So I'll move on to my number 9, and we'll start getting into some of these guys that we both have high as we rotate through here. But number 9 for me is the Alabama left tackle Caden Proctor, who going into this season, I was very high on him coming out of summer scouting because of his physical tools. Like, he's You said, you said there's a new updated size on him. Can you?
Yes. So I made some phone calls last night for folks that don't know. I've got sources all around the country from just years of doing this. His new verified size is 6062, 366 pounds. So that's 66 and a quarter inch, 366 pounds.
Yeah, and still just barely 20 years old. But coming into this, he was a guy that was what I think coming in, he was in the 370s going into the season.
Yep.
Just an absolute massive human being. And I have thought for a guy of that size that he had good movement skills. He showed some good movement skills on his tape last year. And so I'm looking at physical tools and I'm like, well, you can't teach the kind of physical tools that he's got. Coming into this year, his technique was I'll be polite and say it was rough going into this season. It was not great, but it was one of those things where I was looking at it and I just kind of said, hey, he played last year at 19 years old. So all the tape that we were watching in summer scouting was a 19-year-old kid who played where I have his snap counts here. You're talking about a dude last year, 639 pounds or 639 snaps last year. And he had 806 snaps in 2023 when he would have been 18. So it's like, oh my gosh, you got this guy who's going to be 20 years old and play his rookie year at 21. But have 3 years of starting experience. You're like, all of this stuff adds up to like a guy that I was very excited to see what he did this year. And it just didn't start well at all for him. Like I thought he had good movement skills, but then all of a sudden it looked like he was running with cement shoes and he couldn't deal with speed at all, especially when they would shoot the gap inside on him. And it was a rough start. But to be completely honest with you, I think starting at Georgia, he's really started to pick it up. I think he has shown it's almost like with some of these quarterback prospects where when you see these quarterback prospects in the pocket get real antsy and stuff like that, like, and they bail the pocket too early, freak out, whatever it is, something like that. And then eventually they settle in and get more comfortable in the offense. That's kind of what Caden Proctor has done this year. It just looks like as he's gotten more snaps and as he's just kind of played more and started to find some success, especially like I think against Vanderbilt and Georgia, I think he was pretty good. Last week against Missouri was a little bit of a step back, but it wasn't terrible. But you're just talking about a massive human being with really long, great length, size, the power's there, and he's starting to move better again. And like you said, he's gotten down to 366, and that's kind of, I think, attributed to why he's started to bounce back for me, where he's starting to play the way I thought he was going to play. And that's really awesome because if he can do that and continue to build off of that, like he's a first round, like his ceiling is very high in my opinion, because he's got the physical tools, and it's just been a slow start for Caden Proctor at Alabama this year, but he's starting to pick it up. And if he can continue that through SEC play, he'll be a first rounder in my opinion.
I completely agree with you. Right now, he didn't make my top 10. He sits at 14th on my big board in terms of offensive tackles. But everything you said, right on the mark. Like you watched him coming into this season, he had given up 13 sacks, and 10 of those were in his true freshman year. Right. He's given up to date. He's given up 3 sacks in the last 2 years. And one of those came this year against the Florida State game, which is arguably his worst game. Like if you take the Florida State tape out of his docket, he looks like a first rounder. But that Florida State tape is pretty damning as to what you're going to see from Caden Proctor. It's bad. But I mean, athletic as all get out, has the size. And here's the thing. For creative play callers, he's a wet
dream. Oh God, how did I not? Thank you for bringing this up. I'm so disgusted with myself for not bringing this up.
Like Wildcat quarterback, fullback, Like I'm waiting to see him catch a pass as a wide receiver this week because I know it's coming, because I
Put
know
him in
it's
the
in
slot,
DeBoer's
baby.
play. Power slot all the way. Because we know it's coming in DeBoer's playbook. And then if you're an offensive line coach and you say, hey, I've got a guy that big, that size, that athletic, who can do those types of things, and then the offensive coordinator's like, wait a minute, he's how big? Yeah. Like, he's going to shoot up draft boards because of that size. But there are concerns. Like, we have to slow the freight train down that is Caden Proctor. But man, if you told me someone spent a top 100 pick on this kid in the draft because of the ceiling, because we are talking about a guy who just turned 20 years old in June. Mm-hmm. He won't be 21 until after draft night. Like, that is a high ceiling, but the floor is also the Florida State game.
Yeah, and you've got to make peace with that. So okay, we have done Caden Green, we've done JC Davis and Caden Proctor, Emil Wagner. Let's move to Jennings Dunker because he's the next guy on your list, and I have him higher at 5, and you've got him at number 8. So tell me a little bit about what you've seen from Dunker.
So when I watch Dunker, this is one of those guys that, first off, he is, and I am not saying this in any crazy way, he's a man's man at the offensive tackle spot. Because number one, he's got the best mullet in all of college football. And if you tell me I'm wrong, you can go argue with the wall. Because he's got the best mullet in all of college football. He's got the best Culver's order in all of college football. So go argue with the wall. But you look at what he does on the field, just absurd play strength. This guy is as strong as an ox when it comes to offensive line. And he is probably one of the best run blockers, especially in zone blocking, because he just takes the right angle and understands a leverage point that makes him lethal in an Iowa offensive scheme that is built to showcase that. Yep. And the biggest thing, he is nasty. Yes, as a mean streak son of a gun. This is the guy you don't want to see in a dark alley one-on-one. This is what Jennings Dunker is. But people ask, Bill, why do you have him at 8? The problem is you're looking the arm. He's probably a guard because the arm length is questionable. The size for Dunker is also going to be a little questionable. Based on what I've got, the size I've got is 6'4", 6'046", so 6'4 3/4, 315 pounds. That's guard size. Like, we can't get around that. And then, he also just doesn't have the knee bend. Like I talked about with Wagner, he bends more from the hips and it causes his pad level to play a little higher. But if you told me someone took him as a guard in the top 75, this is a perfect, for Cleveland, this is a perfect Joel Bitonio replacement, like hands down.
I'm very interested. The Browns are in an interesting spot when it comes to rebuilding their offensive line. And we'll some things are potentially going to change at coach and things like that if things continue to go bad. So it's hard to say. But, like, they've got Tevin Jenkins that they could re-sign. They've got Zach Zenner on the roster. So I'm not sure how much they'll target, like, a guard in the draft. Mm-hmm. But, he feels like a wide zone, like, kick your ass kind of guard. I've always been, like I said, I've always been like the fail outside in, and I would love to give him a shot at tackle first. But, like, he's just a mean, nasty son of a bitch, and that's why he's number 5 for me. Like,
and you know what? You and I talked about this, and I'm glad you brought up Tevin Jenkins. Who's to say Browns don't put Tevin Jenkins at left tackle and then bring Dunker in, and your left side is Jenkins and Dunker?
Yeah. I personally would be like, yeah, that's fine. Let's do that.
Let it rip.
So we'll move on. My next guy is Caleb Tiernan, who you have higher than me. You have him at 4. I've got him at 8. I'll kick off with what I got on him and then let you go from there and bring up my damn notes here. Another guy who you're going to notice this for me in my my rankings on here, and I don't know why, because I'm not saying I've necessarily always kind of gravitated to these prospects, but this is another guy that has a great power profile. Like this is another guy that wants to hurt you. Um, he's 6'7" and like 325 pounds. He may have to kick into guard again because of a kind of a limited athletic profile. He's kind of stiff. He's not like a bad athlete, but it's a limited athlete. I do think he has great length. So it's not necessarily a length issue because that's what we run into a lot of times where you're like, oh, he's not long enough to be on the outside. I think he plays long, understands how to use his leverage and hand placement and things of that nature. He's another guy you just talked about with who were we just talking about? Jennings
Dunker.
He's another guy with Jennings Dunker, like that I like with the way his angles and like how he moves and sets people up. I think he does a really good job of that as well. I've apparently started to really gravitate towards these guys that have great power profiles. I wonder about him giving up his outside shoulder as a tackle. And which comes back to the athleticism, but it's also like his range as a pass protector is kind of within question for me. But my goodness, is he just a tough, in your face, physical, especially if you're trying to rebuild a run game. Like Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern is going to be your guy.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. But the big thing is too, he's also a hell of a pass protector. Like you watch his footwork is just beautiful. The hand technique is a coach's dream with how it's on time and it's right in the chest. And his mental processing speed, and folks that know me, that's one of my biggest things is as a tackle prospect, how do you handle blitzes and how do you handle complex protection schemes and what's your protection scheme look like? This guy's at Northwestern. You got to be smart to get into Northwestern. It's what we said about Greg Newsome. It's what we have said about other players. You got to be smart to get in there, and he's in there. My concern is you're talking about a guy who, you said it, he plays longer than what he is. There is arm length concerns. My verified size for him is 6'6", 325 is what I've got for Tiernan. So you probably with his arm length are going to want to kick him inside the guard, but guards, you typically like them to be at the max 6'5". The taller you get on the interior, the more it struggles. Like Ethan Posick at 6'7", for example, you've seen kind of some of those struggles. But my God, just a nasty finisher. Probably one of the best pass protectors in this class, I would argue, pound for pound. And he, for me, when we talk about edge rushers, one of my biggest things that I love from edge rushers is their spin move. He makes spin moves look like trash. Like you could have the best spin move in all of college football, and Tiernan says bet and puts you in the dirt. And he does that going away. My comp for him, though, it's Matthew Bergeron from the Atlanta Falcons, and how Bergeron did that tackle to guard transition, and how he just looks like an all-pro elite level guard. I think that's what Tiernan could be. He's one of the guys, Jacob, that you talked about it. You would give him the opportunity to fail at left tackle before kicking him inside because of the arm length. And we saw the arm length conversation with Will Campbell this year, and he's shown a lot of us, including myself, wrong. So I think you have that conversation with him. But you also know in the back of your mind, like this is a pretty good pass protection left guard in the NFL.
It's one of those things where you're like, okay, we're going to put him out here at tackle, see how it goes. But you're not concerned if it goes bad because you're like, I know I'm going to find a place for this guy. Like I know if I kick him into guard, like I'm pretty confident. Like, yeah, if this doesn't work it this way, I'm pretty confident it'll work. Which is kind of how I felt about Will Campbell. Like,
yes,
you brought that up. I was like, yeah, let him fail at tackle first, because I feel like taking him in the top 5, like he was taken, I felt fine with it because I was like, one way or another, like you're going to find a place for this guy to play. And so I think that's So let's go with your number 7. He is different than he is not on his list, and I'll let you do the pronunciation of his name so that I don't.
Right. Yeah. So a Falili Fa'amoe from Wake Forest is my number 7. Like, you look at, and we just talked about it with Caleb Tiernan, right? His power just, and Jennings Dunker, his power just hops off the screen. Fa'amoe power hops off the screen, but he is a tone setting tackle. Like, he not only displaces them with his size, he torques the living daylights out of them and gets them off of their feet. Finishes physically with every snap. What separates him from most tackles, though, is his motor. This is a guy that not only plays like his hair is on fire, but his body's on fire, his family's on fire, his house is on fire, everything's on fire, and he's trying to put it out. He chases down defenders on backside runs. He looks to hit people even after his block is disengaged. If he could, he'd go into the stands and start pass protecting and start pushing people out of the way.
Start fighting the people. You get away from my quarterback.
Right, just right. It would be Malice at the Palace with Falili Fa'amoe. Let's be realistic here. The problem with Fa'amoe, though, is the pass protection. The footwork needs refinement. The footwork is not really capable to keep him on the outside. And his verified size, 6'4", 317, he's probably going to be a guard at the NFL level. But he'd be a really darn good one. And my comp for him is Cody Whitehair from the Chicago Bears, another tackle at Kansas State, slid inside to guard and did very well for Chicago in those early years. So if you told me that the Browns moved on from Wyatt Teller and they took Lili Fa'amoe, I'm happy, because this is a guy that plays through every single whistle, physically finishes, impressive balance, and just plays like his hair's on fire.
Yeah. I hadn't really gotten my eyes on enough of his tape for me to put him in the rankings, but so just full disclosure there, sometimes when we're making these rankings, I just don't get to everybody, and he's not. So I was really interested to hear you, because you sent your list over to me, for this graphic, and I was like, oh, I'm very interested to hear about that, because I have not really watched him in depth. Number 6 for me, another guy that Blake Miller. Blake Miller needed to go back to school. He's the right tackle at Clemson, and I don't think he's regressed, but I don't think he's progressed either. Like, Blake Miller just kind of looks like what he did last year. And for me, he is like a high floor player. Like, I don't think, he doesn't have a bunch of he's got good size at 6'6", 310, maybe a little bit light in the pants, but there's nothing that's going to jump out at you where you're going to be wowed by him athletically. But he's just fundamentally sound. To me, he's just a kind of guy where it's I feel comfortable with putting him out there. I don't know that he would ever be an all-pro level, but he's not going to be a liability. He's got a good amount of experience, good football IQ. He's just not a crazy athlete or crazy powerful, but he knows how to ride, just a lot. One of my favorite things is the way he can guide the defender away from Klubnik, just kind of ride the arc and just let them use their speed or their power and just direct them. So I put him up there just because I think he's a high floor player, just because I think he's really fundamentally sound, but there's nothing athletically or physically that's just going to wow you about him. But I do think he's a high quality player. And so if you're in the back end of day 2, day 3, somewhere around there, and you're I really could use kind of I could use a right tackle that to raise the floor of my tackle room, I think Blake Miller's that guy.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. The big thing is, again, another one of these guys that very quick mental processing, knows what he sees, trusts what he sees. But I'm glad you mentioned that he hasn't really progressed or regressed, because a lot of the Clemson prospects in this year's class, we've talked about it, Cade Klubnik, Peter Woods, TJ Parker, Blake Miller, they just haven't done anything. And if they have, they've either had a really good game and followed it up with an awful game, so they remain flat, or they had an awful game, followed it up with a really good game, and just remained flat. And I think Blake Miller's kind of had that as well. But I mean, the biggest thing that I love from Miller is his durability. This is a guy to this point in his career over 3,000 snaps and has not missed a single game. Like that is the best ability is availability in the NFL. And we know that. We've seen that here in Cleveland with the shuffling of offensive lines. But you're right. I think he's a high floor guy. I don't think you're going to get much more from a ceiling perspective. So he'd probably be a backup right tackle, swing tackle for me, even though he's never really played left tackle outside of a couple of games in 2024, averaged about, logged about 100 snaps at left tackle. So he can do it, but he's a right tackle through and through. But I mean, you want a high floor prospect, like you mentioned, this is your guy.
All right, man, hit me with Austin Butler. Austin Barber from Florida.
Yeah, so listen, when you talk Austin Barber from Florida, you talk about a tackle. This is a guy that has been very up and down this season, and we cannot mince words. He's looked like a star in some games, like against LSU, and then he looked absolutely abhorrent against Texas A&M versus Cassius Howell, where, and I quote, he registered a 0.0 pass blocking grade from PFF.
I didn't know that was possible. So when I heard that stat, and I'm like, there's no way. And so I pulled up PFF, and I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, it apparently I didn't know it was possible. I thought you could at least end with like a 1 or a 2.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that was even possible. But you watch it. This is a guy, just exceptionally lateral agility. He can mirror speed rushers very well. So it was very shocking to see just Cassius Howell consistently get into him, because he also has a very good arm length. The concern though, and you see it with Cassius Howell. Cassius Howell had a really, really good bull rush move. Barber struggles against those. If you are stronger than him, you will walk him back into your quarterback's pocket. And then in addition to that, when he's under duress, his legs narrow. So then he loses even more power that he already doesn't have. So then it becomes even easier to just push him down. But I mean, you look at this guy, absolutely an athletic star, probably one of the best zone blocking tackles in this class, because he just has a very good first step quickness and very good balance. He can just get to his spot quickly. The big thing is, if you need a swing tackle prospect, even though he's been firmly a left tackle with some right tackle in his career, mainly back in 2022. He is a guy that you would struggle to start today. If you're going to say, hey, I need a starting blindside protector, you struggle to put Barber there, because for every game that he's looked good in, he's also had a rough game. University of Miami against Ruben Bain Jr., Texas A&M against Cassius Howell. Like, these edge rushers that are strong as oxes walk him back, and it's a concern. My comp for him is Darnell Wright for the Chicago Bears, who plays right tackle, but the same things we saw at right at Tennessee, we see at Barber. Just doesn't really have the strength profile. But I mean, man, there's a lot to love about Barber, which is why he's 5th for me. But there's also a lot to hate against strength profiles.
Yeah, I'll do. I'm with you on that. That 0.0 was like, that's why I had him out of my top 10, because I was like, I see it. Like you said, like I've seen it, but those elite guys so far have really, taken him to school, and it's been, that Florida team is so weird, man. Because one week you're like, oh, this is a great team. The next week you're like, what is going on? It's just like across the board for them. 4 for me is, we've got the same top 3, and we'll get into just in a different order. We'll get into those in a second. But Isaiah World from Oregon, I really feel like, so for him, he was one of my big watch players coming out of summer, because I thought he was really, really good the last couple of years at Nevada, and then he was transferred up. He went to a step up in competition, goes to Oregon, Oregon's, I know they lost last week, man, but like Oregon's such a good football team. The Big Ten having like with Oregon and Indiana and Ohio State, it's just like those are some again. It's a really good group of teams. But so he takes this step up in play, and I'm like, this is exactly what I needed. I needed to see him, and he kind of did what I expected, which was he started slow. Like it definitely started at the beginning of the year. I think he's progressed pretty well. Um, but Isaiah World, it was like, yeah, you could see like, oh, I used to be able to like. He's a really good athlete. I think he's one of the better athletes at the position, especially on the left side of the line. And you can tell that his superior athletic ability really got him. He got away with some stuff at Nevada because he was just his athleticism. Like even when he was beat, his ability to recover and re-engage is really good. And you saw that like he needed some technical work with his hands and some of his footwork and things like that. And you could tell with those things stood out at the beginning of the season. I think he's gotten better at it. I really think that he's got the tools, the athletic profile. I think he's got the power profile. I think he can become a really complete tackle. He's one of my favorite prospects in this class. I really got to see how this continues to play out. Can he continue to grow and progress and refine some of those technical things that were just a little sloppy? Like, I mean, I just feel like, you know, this is why I like it. He is a perfect example of why I like NIL and the way that people are able to if they're playing really well at a lower level of competition, that they get that opportunity to transfer up. Is, hey, he needed work on the technical stuff because physically Isaiah World's got everything you need. Like physically, that he's physically talented enough. He just has to work on his, hand placement, his footwork, and that stuff was sloppy. And he got away with it at Nevada, and early on this year at Oregon, he didn't. But if he can continue to progress, like he's a first round caliber talent to me.
No, I agree with you. The two biggest things for me for Isaiah World that are concerning is that he hasn't put it all together yet, like you talked about. At one game, he looks like a star as a pass blocker and unplayable as a run blocker. And the next game, it's flipped, right? You watch Penn State, Indiana, he looks like a star as a run blocker and then can't pass block to save his life. And then Indiana, he's pass blocking well, but then they're struggling in the run game. And it just goes back and forth, and it's a concern. But as far as athletic traits and size traits, he is probably the best athlete in this entire class, and that's better than the top three guys. The other big thing that I'm very happy about for Isaiah World is he has cut down on the penalties significantly.
Yeah.
In his first, it was an issue when we talked about it in summer. You and I talked about him. He averaged 10 penalties a year at Nevada, and he's only gotten 3 so far this year on him. So he has cut that down significantly because those are drive killers for offensive tackles as penalties. But I'm with you. I still have to see him put it all together and do it in a consistent game. But I still think the ceiling is sky high. My comp for him is Tyron Smith, the Dallas Cowboy offensive tackle. I think that is the ceiling for him, and I think that's where he can get to. But he's got to put it all together.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll let you start this one off. Let's go. Let's start off Caleb Lomu and then the left tackle for Utah.
Yeah, so you look at Caleb Lomu. I know I just said Isaiah World is the best athlete in this offensive tackle class, but Caleb Lomu is the one guy that says, "Hey, hold my beer," because he can go bar for bar with Isaiah World in terms of his athletic ability. He just moves like a tight end at the offensive tackle position, just extremely light feet, recovers well. The big concern with Caleb Lomu is when you look at his size, because he is a guy that you're going to kind of struggle to have that size and that anchor at left tackle. Verified size is 6'5", 308. So just a shade over 300 pounds. And we talked about it with Emil Wagner. We have to talk about it with Caleb Lomu. When you get to the NFL, 300, 305, 310, it's just not going to get it done. You're going to get pushed around. You're going to get moved around from some of these stronger defensive linemen. And we've kind of seen it a little bit this year play out. Like you watched the Texas Tech game, that was a big case where it happened, where these stronger defensive linemen kind of moved him around and pushed him around a bit. But I mean, this is probably hands down probably the best pass protector in all of this class. And also, he is the one guy right now. I have 3 first-round grades at offensive tackle, and it's my top 3. He is my lone left tackle first-round grade in this class. So this is where I talked about in the episode when we kicked it off, Jacob. If you need a left tackle, you've got to go get him early because he is my top 1. And on my top 100, he is currently number 6 overall on my big board. So if you told me he went in the top 3, I wouldn't be shocked. You're probably going to have to get there to get Caleb Lobo.
Yeah, he's definitely not making it out of the top 10 in my mind. Like it'd be interesting to see how teams prioritize it, but like, yeah, he's a guy you're gonna have to go high if you want to get him, and he's the best option you have on that side of the ball. I'll do Spencer Fano real quick. He's my number 1, and talk about a guy that's just mean and nasty, and I've kind of gravitated to Spencer Fano. I got my wrong notes pulled up here. I just looked over to check my notes on Spencer Fano, and I'm like, oh, I had Caleb Loma's stats pulled up. Yeah, it's like stuff like that. You talk about a guy that mean, nasty run blocker, but you talk about a guy that is technically sound. Like that's the thing that really sticks out for me with Spencer Fano and why I have him number 1. Like I like his footwork. I think he's a good athlete. I like his hand placement, the way he plays with leverage. Like I like all this. He's my top tackle, but he's a right tackle. So that'd be interesting to see how people prioritize it. Now, while he's really good in the run game, I do have size concerns at the next level. I do have arm length issues. There are a lot of people that want to kick him inside to guard. He's another guy I'd let fail outside in. But, like, I think he fires off the line of scrimmage in the run game when he will bring the fight to you. Like, he is going to get in your face. He's going to get physical. I love that. And you know, the hand placement, the playing with leverage, just like I think Fano is just like a really polished prospect. Now, he's had a couple of games this year against higher competition that has not been as good as I expected him to be. I'm trying to, what was the one game? Had it pulled up, and then of course I do this thing where I unpull things up like I didn't already know. The Texas Tech, that's what it was. The Texas Tech game. Texas Tech, by the way, they got themselves some edge rushers. The Texas Tech game, so the highest, the most talented team he's played this year, there were some struggles there. But every other game, he's bounced back the last 2 games. He was fantastic last week against Arizona State. But he just, there's a little bit of size and length concerns. But really polished, real good athlete. I think all the fundamentals are there. And I just think that he's a guy you could draft. Maybe you end up thinking you need to kick him into guard, but I think you could stick him at the right tackle spot for the next decade and be happy about it.
No, I agree with you. I think when you look at Spencer Fano, you know, he's number 3 for me. Just explosive first step power, violent hands. The biggest issue is when he gets into the deeper parts of the pass arc and in back parts of the pocket, there's some balance concerns. He looks a little off balance on some occasions. But I think right now, if you told me that both Utah offensive tackles don't get out of the top 10, I'd agree. Because, again, they are 2 of the 3 that I have a first-round grade on, and I have them right next to each other at number 6 and number 7 on my big board, and I don't see a world where they get out of the top 10, potentially top 5, depending on who's picking there.
Yeah, and teams have shown us in recent years that it doesn't matter if they're a right tackle, they still value that. We've seen right tackles go high. Like, I think there was a time at which they were thought a little bit less of, but it's like, but the way these teams have all these talented edge rushers and the way defensive coordinators move them around, your right tackle is just as important as your left tackle. Like, it's that's the reality. All right, man, we're going to close this thing out. I'll let you go number one. He's your number one. And I know you're gonna cover it. So tell us.
Yeah. So Francis CC Maui Noah from Miami, 6'5", 335 pounds. Let's just talk athletic ability for a second. 10-yard split, 1.57 seconds. Mm-hmm. When they did the vertical jump test, they also test power output. So how much power you generate from that vertical test. His power output registered the same amount of power in terms of wattage that would be enough for a 10K generator to power your house. Meaning the amount of power he generates from his vertical jump is the same as a 10K generator to power your house. And then, also, by the way, he's also been clocked at going 18 miles an hour.
At that size.
At that size? At 6'5", 335? What are we doing here? Like, this is a freakish athlete, rare movement skills, has some of the most violent hands in this class that just stuns defenders. He shocks them like he's putting 10K generator into their chest. A very good knee bender. The big concern is that he does occasionally get aggressive in his pass protection sets. He often gets out too far over his skis. I know there's been some question marks about his footwork and potentially sliding him inside to guard. I don't see that. I think this is a right tackle through and through. I think he's got every potential ability to stay out there at right tackle. It's a franchise potential at right tackle. He's number 4 overall on my big board right now. My comp for him is Penei Sewell from the Detroit Lions. And if you told Detroit Lions fans, well, we're not going to take Penei Sewell because he didn't play left tackle, they're going to tell you to go pound sand because Penei Sewell's looked like one of the best tackles in all of football. And I think that's the ceiling for CC Maui Noah.
He's been fantastic. Well, guys, that is it for us this week. That is our top 10 offensive tackles early on. I'm not sure what position we'll do next week, but we'll be back with a recap of this week's college action for Monday night, or for Monday morning. We'll drop a show on there. So make sure you're subscribed here on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. Check us out on TikTok. We got a lot of fun stuff going on over there. We appreciate you guys so much. We'll see you again next time.
See you guys.